I think you can see me, right? Okay. So
Yep.
welcome. All right. Oh, we're live. Wow. Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our June Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind. We're having a bit of a chat because we're having some technical challenges with Lily's video, but we've now got both Lily and Sandy who've come to join us. So it's going to be a super awesome call. So I'm going to say hi, Sandy. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Roger. How are you?
Very good. And where are you in the world today, Sandy?
I am in Las Vegas, and it is midnight.
Awesome. Well, thank you for staying up and not turning into a pumpkin.
You're welcome. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next hour. You'll witness magic.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and then we have Lily, who is on mute at the moment because she's in the hotel lobby. Lily, where are you right now?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Bayswater in a hotel, and the Wi-Fi is dipping. And yeah, good morning, everybody. My number one button on my cell phone is on my laptop is not working, but I'm here.
Yeah, you made it in the nick of time. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. We're going to put you back on mute for a second, just because there's a bit of background noise. But great to have you on here. And yeah, very good that you actually managed to get some Wi-Fi in London hotels, because that sometimes is a challenge. Great to have everyone who's coming joining us as well. Let me share a little bit of navigation as we go into our call, so we're all kind of like ready for what we're going to be covering and the kind of general theme of what's going to be on the call as we go through this as well, right? So let me first of all just share my screen for a moment. And a couple of things to note, especially for those who may be new to our call, because we have new people joining us all the time. Let me just show my whole screen, so it might look a bit wild for a moment. We have got here Lily Neiman and Sandy Herrera. They both are in the education field, as you're going to hear. Both of them are also in our community and doing amazing things with the education side. So we're going to be hearing all about that. We're going to be going really focused, like talking about branding, which we were doing on the last call, and linking it to a value cycle. This is all directly connected in with what we're about to launch this coming Thursday, which is free of charge for everyone who is our mastermind members already. So if you have not yet gone in and joined, I would definitely recommend that you do that. So what we are doing, as you'll see here, is that we have got the launch of our Entrepreneur 5.0 5-day course. And I'm actually going to use some of the slides from one of the courses. We've actually done all the videos and so on. So I'll actually do that for you. There's this link here that actually goes straight into, as you can see, all of the comments that are taking place inside this group, which we only opened a month ago, and it's already got 7,500 people on it. So it's been growing very, very, very quickly. And that's really because we have people all over the world now. Japan here, we've got here's London, here's South Africa, Melbourne, but lots and lots of other places that we haven't even been doing a lot in, like Malaysia, so all these different amazing places that it's great to see us getting connected, like Santiago, like all over the place, which is really great. So so do get linked into this. I'm going to just give you this link, and I'll drop it into the Genius U chat, because we are going to be using, this is where we're going, Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind. So if you just kind of search for it, you'll find it pretty quickly on here. I think you all have the links for this as well. You can see here's the video that we can generally access, and I will be posting in here all the comments. So that's the actual link to the page and also to the launch, just for anyone who might have missed it in your busyness. That's the first thing I want to share. Second thing I wanted to share was basically the page where everyone is entering in all of their questions. So you can see here all the questions for June. The Q&A video for May has come out. So there's a whole bunch of questions that people are posting in here already. So if you have not done that, what's your biggest question for the month? You can post it in here, and then I will be answering that in the coming month. And we will take a few on this call as well. Now, let's just get right into Lily and Sandy. I'm going to start with Sandy in a moment, and you can see here Sandy's Genius U profile. So she's one of our mentors, Global Culture and Leadership Coach. Here is her page, which is all around supporting schools in their core values and using all the tools that we are doing with the Genius School. So we're going to talk about just the whole way that she is doing that. For any of you who are currently trying to figure out a business model that's going to work for you, you're going to see just how that all evolves in the conversation we're going to have, first of all, with Sandy, and then also, that's Sandy's link. I'm going to give you a link direct to Sandy as well, so you actually got that too. Oh, that's Sandy's link. Okay, so here's her page. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to just give you a bit of a taster already of Lily, so we can kind of see how the two of them compare and what they're doing as they go through the conversation. And then we're going to talk about how you can apply all the things you're learning from them to how you're building your own business as well, right? So, and any immediate comments or questions, you can post them in here too. What would be awesome is anyone who has actually found their way onto here is just basically, obviously, once you comment, you can see where you're at straight away. So Catherine's commented here. So I'd love to hear from everyone who's on here, where you are in the world right now. Who's Catherine already saying, great to be here from Margaret River. So wherever you're, here's Duncan from England. So wherever you are, post in here where you're at the moment. We'd love to hear it. And then let's just come over to Lily for a second. So here's Lily. Lily is based in Port Elizabeth in South Africa. She just happens to be in London at the moment. She's the CEO of E Squared Education. E Squared Education is a campus of schools and also of higher education. So she's got an Edu College, Edu Options, Edu City, and all of it is helping people be more entrepreneurial. So Lily is one of our Crystal Circle members. She is doing a lot of really awesome things right now, just getting onto the online courses side as well. But she has had tens of thousands of people go through all of her private colleges and higher education. And that shift that she's going through is going to be a really interesting one that we'll be sharing on this call as well. Right. So with all of that as an introduction, I am going to now come over, first of all, to Sandy. And I'll actually start, I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. So let's just do this. And Sandy, I would love, let's do this. I'd love for you to share when we first met, what was at that point happening in terms of the shift, you know, from Zappos and into education, and then what you would say would be some of the biggest distinctions in your journey from that starting point to what's going on today.
Yeah, I mean, I could go back even further. I think the first time we met was 2005, 6-ish timeframe when you were in the US, before all of EI was developed and everything. So since then, my world has changed dramatically. But really in the last 4 years, it's even been more exponential since I became a performance consultant and started bringing talent dynamics into the school space. But I actually got into the education space after working with Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos. I was running internal culture and internal operations for his company, Delivering Happiness, based on his book. And we were teaching other companies how to use happiness as a business model and create positive workplace culture. And through that time, schools would get a hold of the book and reach out and say, hey, we want to be happy too. Can you teach us? So I started volunteering my time with schools, and we started seeing increased teacher retention, increased school spirit, increased student attendance. And I realized I love working with educators. They are one of the most amazing, passionate group of humans on the planet. And so I left Delivering Happiness in January of 2013 to solely focus on transforming the culture, the workplace culture in our schools. And then in 2015, ended up in Bali and became a performance consultant and brought talent dynamics into the schools. And that really shifted everything that I was doing to really create another layer to the common language of the core values that I was helping the schools articulate, and really helping them understand more effective communication and how to leverage each other's strengths. And it's just been a really amazing tool. And then fast forward to being one of the founding Genius educators with Genius School, alongside you and Angie, has just been amazing in the last little over a year since I launched Genius Camps in May of 2018 here in Vegas, which was super fun.
And just on that point, because it's really cool, first of all, that you've taken all the stuff that like is known, like Tony did such a good job with Zappos on that, and to take a lot of those principles and bring them into the schooling system. But what was really awesome was the way when so many people were trying to figure out how to bring these like self-awareness tools in for kids. And we talked about how the way to do it was not trying to get the parents or the schools to pay for it, but actually to get companies to sponsor it. So do you want to share a bit about, because you went down that path and it's worked, right? Do you want to just share how you went down that pathway and the model, how the model actually works?
Yeah, so with the school culture coaching, I've actually had Zappos sponsor a school and a couple of other companies sponsor, but the majority of the schools are actually paying for that work, the professional development, on their own, through their own budgets, and finding a way because they realize how important culture is. And so they're carving out $15,000 to $20,000 a year to pay for me to come in and train their staff on how to create a positive, sustainable culture. And now with the Genius Camps, it's the sponsorships are going a lot easier because it's the way that I always like to say, it's sexier to sponsor kids than it is to sponsor adults. And it just, in the nonprofit world, it seems to be flowing a lot easier. So that's really the path that I'm going to continue running down with the nonprofit, is the sponsorship model for the camps.
I mean, you had, like, for example, like Informatics, when they were sponsoring, they were even bringing the kids up onto stage at their corporate events to just share what they were doing. And it actually was like a really big PR thing almost, right?
They've done that the past 2 years. Informatica has sponsored camps, and they've brought all 25 kids up on stage at their Informatica World Global event with amazing global partners witnessing the impact that the camps have had on these kids.
And share with everyone what happens. I mean, the camps are actually, you're still running the camps in the schools themselves, right?
I do. I partner with the schools. So once I have a sponsor ready and willing to jump in, they really articulate what type of student that they want to impact. And I find a school that matches that. And then I have the school help choose the kids and connect with the parents. And we use the school's facility. The schools actually designate someone to help us connect with the kids and get them on board and make sure they show up and handle all of that piece for us. And we come in and run an amazing camp for 2 days over a weekend.
Yeah. And the kids themselves, when they're coming out, I mean, it really is that fast that within 2 days, they can have massive transformations, but just because of the way you're focusing them at themselves and who they want to be. And I was watching the video of when they were getting up onto stage and sharing, what they wanted to achieve. And it was just inspiring just hearing that. So that whole experience of going through that, do you want to share a bit about that? Like how, because that's a large part of the reason you do it as well, right?
Yeah, it's having the kiddos show up on day one of the camp. They really have no idea what they're getting themselves into. And some of them are excited to be there because they're excited to be wherever they are. And then you have kids where their parents are bringing them. And I shared this story with you in San Diego, is one of those moms, those of you that have kids know what it's like when you're going to drop your kid off somewhere and you're like, good luck with them. Better you than me today. And this one, I want to call him a little guy, he's probably 11 or 12 years old. And he just was not happy. But within 2 hours, once he took the Talent Dynamics for Young People assessment, realized his natural brain-wired strength, and we put him in mixed teams, he was celebrated for who he was, and he had the best time ever. And his mom was thanking us when she picked him up. She was like, I don't know what you did, but thank you. So good. So many stories like that where we just have them really lean in, and it's within the first 3 hours of the camp that they shift.
Yeah, that's amazing. So one thing I just want to point out to everybody who's listening right now, before we come over to Lily, and we're going to come back to Sandy again as we start going through just how you grow a model of any sort, like especially if it's a model where you've actually got different people involved. As you heard from Sandy, she's got the schools that are actually willing to pay for some of the work, and that's actually to train the teachers. And then she's got the companies that are actually sponsoring camps with the kids. And what's really, really important is that the binary way of thinking, which is the whole 4.0 model, where the person who's paying you is the person who's getting the value, that whole binary model is no longer the model that actually most of the biggest companies in the world are actually using, right? So if you actually take that whole, mindset, which is, my customer is the person paying me the money, and they're paying me the money for my product. That whole way of thinking is the product-based model, which is the industrial model, and even into the information age is the information model, which is, okay, I'm going to be putting money into something, developing something, people are going to pay me the money, they're the customer. And so when people say things like, on Facebook, if you're not paying anything, you must be the product, it's totally faulted, because that's on the basis that it's like a one-way street where the money is always coming from the customer. The Renaissance model, which is a 5.0 model, is one in which where the money comes from could be totally different from whoever is the customer. So then you say, well, then how do I define the customer? It's not the person paying the money, it's the person that I'm customizing for. So whereas the 4.0 model is all about productizing, the 5.0 model is all about customizing. And if you start from that space to say, well, who do I really want to customize for? In Sandy's case, she's saying, well, I want to customize for the kids. I want the kids to have this unique experience. But then it's like, okay, well, if they're not going to be the ones who pay for it, who's going to pay for it? Maybe the schools. But the companies have a challenge themselves, because the companies are there and they're saying, well, we want to have kids that are more conscious as well. So we're happy. There's lots of benefit we get by actually putting the money in to support this. So we'll do that. And then Facebook's exactly the same. Facebook actually has companies pay for advertising, but if they're doing anything that isn't on value to the customer, then Facebook will change that, because the last thing they want is for people to leave the platform. So being really aware that during the Renaissance, if Michelangelo wasn't getting paid by the people looking at his sculptures, he was getting paid by the sponsors, which was the Medici family. And the Medici family says, well, we're willing to pay for that because we see that being part of a greater whole. If we can end up with a more just society, we can end up with more art on the streets, we'd rather pay for that. And then at the same time, that person can then go ahead and actually get their work out to everyone else. This is the reason we can have free music today. It's the reason that we can have free information today. Someone somewhere is paying for it, but knowing that basically the people who could be your biggest customers are not going to pay you anything. You're just going to customize for them, and then asking yourself, well, then who is going to be the people that are going to pay for all of this? They become your sponsors. That's why it's probably the biggest question in your business model going forward. Now, having said that, let's come over to Lillian, because it is Lillian's time, and I could hear her unmuting, so she wants to talk now. So I'm going to, Lillian, ask you the question. We obviously met a lot more recently, and I'd love you to just share, since we, like, what was going on when we met, and since we met, what's been the evolution of your business?
Well, Roger, we know each other now for 5 months, because we met in Port Elizabeth on the 23rd of November. And then
oh my gosh, you know the exact date.
Yes, so it's something between a bullet train and, one of these, what will we say, these merry-go-rounds. No, I think it's the fastest learning curve in my life up to now. And the biggest challenge for me now is to go online, of course, with the genius of all geniuses' help. So yeah, that is our next step. 25 years of private education that differs from like grade 1 to grade 12, plus the certificates for the skills college, plus then the higher, the university, the degrees, the diplomas. So that, and then the nano degrees. Yeah. So this is our biggest challenge. And it was very interesting to hear Sandy. And Sandy, at least you have 14 years, am I right? If you met Roger in 5, or did I hear correctly, you met him in 5. So
14 years, yeah.
You think we are going to be in 14 years. But anyway. Yeah, so I think the biggest shift is that one golden line. I call it my Rogerisms. Roger is giving so much wisdom, but that is to really be in flow and to live a life of effortless ease. So this is what I want to do with my business, because I want to use this other quote of old Winston Churchill. It's here on the £5 notes in England. He said to the people in the war, all that I can offer you is sweat, blood, toil, and tears. Now, this is how it felt 25 years in private education in South Africa, being an entrepreneur. And I always tell Roger the story. I said in 2007, the only place that I could find in the world that assisted entrepreneurs was Durham University and Twente University here in Europe. So I took 7 of my staff members to Europe, and it was a very interesting journey. And all 115 at that stage, I had trained in entrepreneurship education. And that was in 2007. And when I met Roger in November last year, I felt I've come home. So Roger, it was a very, very interesting journey, and I'm still learning. And Roger loves stats. Now I'm put on my glasses, So here I am. And I want to tell you what I've done since I've met Roger. So I said, here's the summary. He likes that.
You got a list.
Yes. I've attended 3 free events. I've sponsored 2. I've made 52 phone calls in 5 months. It's 100 days if you count the working days. I've done 2 days training session. I've had 5 training sessions with my team in the 5 months. I had went to Tile for Wealth Dynamics 5 days. We are 2 flow consultants at East Square, and I'm at Crystal Circle, and I'm a monthly gem. Yeah, I've introduced 50 people to Genius U. It's 10 a month. And I've done a personal bar. Yeah. So this is the 5 months, when I said to myself, I must just a little bit, I must prepare. So yeah, this is where
How's your preparation?
You always say you must treasure what? You treasure what you make.
Exactly. Well,
Roger, I'm going to write a book
um,
on Rogerisms.
Lily, you get an A for effort. You get an A for effort. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's good. So my question for you is around, I mean, obviously you've gone on a very, very traditional model up to now. I mean, just like you've gone out, you've got the campuses started, it's all in one place in Port Elizabeth. You know, it's like the place where people come to learn from. And the model, like the actual business model, how much is it the students paying? How much is it the government subsidizing or paying?
Look, the government subsidy is next to nothing. If you look at the total, it's about the 2%. And that is the nonprofit. I was listening to Sandy about her nonprofit. But the past years, we had also corporates that sponsored bursaries to learners. And the one thing of our model is we've got in South Africa this discrepancy of township, what they call township education. I don't know whether I've ever shared it, but that is black education versus white education. Now, the South African government are putting millions into trying to improve, but there was incentives pre-94 to start private schools, and you will be hugely incentivized if you can help to change the so-called black education. Now, I've been involved in black education for the past 25 years, and I had 38,000 people through my hands, and I've got international soccer players, opera singers, people attending with London Olympics as boxers. So I'm very proud of my alumni, and we're very closely connected. And apart from that, you ask what, well, I must actually calculate 25 years times turnover and then said, okay, how many bursaries did we sponsor? It's about, it's in ZRR, it's 25 to 30 million. If you divide by US dollars, I haven't got my calculated here. This is something that I'm battling. So it's about 2 million. I don't know. Okay, let's not do the calculations. And yeah. Must I take out my calculator and divide by 17? Sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's 17. But yeah. And now, 2 years ago, we started getting the programs online. So we've got a Moodle site, but I haven't uploaded it. And I think the universe was saying to me, just hold on. Now it's uploaded. It hasn't gone live. Just hold on. I'm going to introduce you to Roger in November. So then I met him. So now I'm waiting because when I launch, I would like to launch internationally. So yeah, this is a process that we're busy with. And I had a very interesting meeting with Durham University yesterday, and they have also been with online education, specifically entrepreneurship, for the past 25 years. And he has given me access to his website, his learning platform, plus he has sponsored or given to me 15 like CDs with all his experience of 25 years. It's actually unbelievable. I can't wait to show it to you. Yeah. So this is the story, Roger. We are now going online.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's really exciting as a bit of a theme as we get into the next part of this call, is that with the education side, as many of you listening knows, my number one, like purpose, same as Lily and Sandy, is education. And so, the whole Genius School movement, which Angie in New Zealand has been launched, really been growing, and we've got people all around the world now that are actually part of it in different ways. What Sandy's doing right now in the US, what Lily's doing in South Africa, it all links because all of it is about this next generation. So it's going to be a really, really exciting time with what's about to happen over the next 6 months. This launch we're doing this Friday, we've got 20,000 people, which is a lot of people. Like, we do an event for 200 people and we think that it's packed. So 20,000 people is like 100 times that. And that's basically going to be really kicking us into the next 6 months of the World Game, which is going to be, like, again, super exciting to actually get us ready for 2020, but to be able to do this in a way that actually is able to support kids as well through the schooling and through the apprentice programs put in place. That's going to be a big focus of ours over the next 6 months as well. So rather than just me going back into more Q&A with both Lily and Sandy, I've noticed that quite a few of the questions that are coming through are going to lead the way on this, which is pretty cool. And let me just share with you the first question I'm going to be asking, because I'm going to go do this like one by one. First question I'm going to ask, I'm actually going to do it from here, is from Callum. So Callum has this company which is called Manuka Essentials, right? And if we actually just go and have a look at what that looks like, this is a company which is based in New Zealand. It is a company that is doing some really amazing things, as you can see here, with Manuka, which is, sorry, East Cape. What did I say New Zealand for? East Cape is in South Africa. Manuka oil for all sorts of different things. Beard oil, like if you've got a good mustache, right? All products by Manuka, right? So, no, what is New Zealand? I keep on getting confused. I knew it was New Zealand. All right, sorry about that. I got confused. I've been traveling too much recently. So this is all basically from New Zealand, and this is a really, really awesome program, which is creating sustainability, as well as like bringing natural products out to the rest of the world. But the question that Callum has is, here this one. Hi, Roger. With the level of connectivity and globalization that we have in the world today, there's no shortage of information, as we know, right? So you seem to have a lot going on in your life, yeah. Okay, so do you have a criteria to help determine whether something is worth investing your time into? What about when you've made plans and set flight paths for the coming months and years, but something new comes up, or you have a brilliant idea that doesn't fit in with your existing plans? What are the most important factors that you consider when deciding which relationships, business opportunities, or experiences to pursue? Like, how do you decide when you've got too many opportunities? So I'm going to start with you, Sandy. I'm really interested to hear both from you and Lily as well, around once you actually have a clear picture of where you want to go and even know that you need to put some kind of a plan in place. How do you balance between the planned and the unplanned? When new stuff shows up, how do you actually decide what to do, what not to do with that information? Do you want to kick it off, Sandy? Well, how do you do it?
Sure. I was trying to find the unmute, and Kathleen got it for me. For me, it's really about having the clarity of vision to know my why first. And my why is so deeply rooted in raising the consciousness of educators that if it's in alignment with that, then I will consider how it fits into my plan. And if it's not in alignment with that, then, you know, if it's a close friend, then I will connect them with someone else that I know that might be in that path. But that's about as far as I'll go. Or I'll just say, you know, this is an idea I have, and being a creator brain, I can allow them to, I can usually give them an idea off the top of my head. But beyond that, I won't invest my time if it is not focused on raising the consciousness of educators. And these camps really fall in alignment with that, because it gives educators a new pathway to really live true to their passion and create another revenue stream that is part of revolutionizing education and not necessarily changing the old system. So I feel like I'm that bridge between the old system and what will be the new system. And so anything that aligns with that and my true why is what gets my time.
Absolutely. For everyone who's in that same conundrum, if you get up to yellow level where there's too many opportunities coming your way, this is the reason that the number one thing is identify your identity. Who are you? And there's that great saying from Warren Buffett, which is the difference of successful people and very successful people is very successful people say no to almost everything. Right? It's like, because they're just so clear on what it is that there's big why, and why would you do anything that isn't totally aligned to that one thing. Lily, I'm going to come over to you. What would you share? Obviously, we've been working with you about your team and not disrupting your team too much. So what happens when you suddenly have a bright idea and then you've got to kind of like figure out, how do I even fit this into the team, or do I leave it until next year? And especially with, you know, opportunities coming to you all the time, how do you make those decisions? Oh, wait, Lily, you're on.
Maybe it's because I'm in the Eastern Cape and there's not so many opportunities. No, I'm just joking. No, I think okay. You know, I think it's quite interesting, the why. Because how did I end up 25 years being a lecturer in music and having a dream to have something to do with art in my life? And now suddenly I started schools in a township school, and I'm starting changing lives. So I would say my passion is to change lives for the better. And that was the first. The second thing, I remember I was nominated for a reward, and I had to write a vision. And you know, the vision said, I had a vision, a dream once. I saw this huge education building. People were going in and out talking about all the wonderful things that's working inside. And even then, I wanted to accelerate and transform education and learning for future generations to make it sexy, exciting, future oriented, future relevant, futuristic, and entrepreneurial. So that dream I always had. And even with my team, I think it's always, if something new comes up and it can enhance that dream, we follow that. And it's like, if I say education for the future was our motto ever since we start. And you know this joke that always tell that we now in the, whatever, somewhere in the future, in the year 3, we now in 2000, in the year 4000, and somebody's coming back to Earth, and you know they couldn't believe what's going on, all the new things that's happened, and they took him into the classroom, and the guy said, "No, I remember that. I can do that." So education in a way is antiquated, and for me, I've got a passion to help to change it, to not be antiquated. Even our fantastic, you know, like the top 100 universities in the world, maybe some of them are doing fantastic things, but the world are changing so fast. I don't know whether either the towers are also changing fast enough. So yeah, my would be, if it assists to change the world, yes, let's go for it.
Yeah, totally. So that's the big answer you're getting on this question, is that you have to be clear on your own why first, and then from that why, then everything that's not clearly going to support that, don't do it. I'll go further, and I'll on the Q&A video, I'll actually go through the 5 criteria that I use on all my criteria, of which the first one is definitely to fit my why. But then there's other ones as well to kind of really zoom it down, especially if you've got a big team and you've got other things going on where you can't just go ahead and disrupt them as well, right? So we'll get into the second part of that, deeper into that also in the Q&A. But I want to go on to another question here, which actually kind of leads down a bit of a pathway here. And it's a really important one, especially for those of you who are more kind of like at the start phase or are getting into a new industry, which is in a start phase as well, right? This is the question. The question actually comes from CJ here, who says, "Hi Roger, just joined as a flow consultant following EXC in London on the 16th of June, so brand new here, and having completed all the assessments, it's now obvious to me that the biggest multiplier to achieving my 2019 goals is building a team around me. So my question is, how do I go about doing this given my current situation as an employee who's looking to transition to freelance in order to have more time to build a business and product development," right? So the whole thing here is like, okay, the question is, how do I build a team around me? And I'm going to start again with you, Sandy, because like this is a really key thing. Like, you know, you either choose to have a team around you, or you choose to actually have partnerships where you're part of other people's teams, right? And you've obviously gone down that pathway because we're partnering, and you're partnering with you know, Zappos and so on. So do you want to talk to that? Because you've seen a lot of that in the 14 years we've been together, where people kind of figure the first thing they need to do is start from scratch and get a team, as opposed to go and join someone else's team. And just like your advice to someone like CJ who's just getting started, especially because you've already gone through connecting with the community, growing things through like partnerships with other people and so on, and you haven't had to grow a massive team until you started getting the flow coming through. And at that point, then it's actually easier to get the team as well, right? So yeah, what would you share on that one?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really been a journey of finding the right partners, and it's been partnerships that are seemingly small in terms of the connection to that piece of the business that I had a gap in. For example, the assessment piece, I didn't even really know that I was lacking that when I showed up in Bali, and it was a random sequence of events as to how I got there. But ended up in performance consultant training, and it was through that training that it came to me why I was there and what the purpose was in creating the partnership to really bring that work into the fold, because it really was a journey of discovery in the beginning. It was learning from everyone in the industry. It was learning who were the players and who could I connect with, and who was already in the flow in order to partner with and learn from. And then growing to a place where I could incorporate those things and really carve out my niche of why I was different and what I was doing was unique.
And what advice would you give based on, you know, someone like CJ who's like, oh, I'm in a job and I need to get a team around?
Yeah, I think that it's more about finding other people who are already doing that thing and partnering with them, especially if you're in a job, and doing that part-time first before leaving your job and jumping. I jumped too soon. In hindsight's 2020. I jumped too soon from delivering happiness before I thought I had good momentum with the schools, but I didn't have it. Again, it happened the way that it happened for a reason, and I figured it out along the way, but it definitely was a stressful path to figure it out the way that I did. And it would have been a lot easier had I been able to hang on to the partnership with Delivering Happiness and Zappos a little bit longer to have it grow more roots.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, one thing I'll say to anyone who's more orange level before getting to yellow is the step follow the flow, not follow your flow, is about saying, look, if you're going to play football, don't start by showing up when you haven't played before and trying to get everyone to join your team, because no one's going to come join. Like, start by going and seeing who's playing that needs help so you can go join their team. And you might not be captain to start with, but you're going to learn how to play the game when you're on the pitch, and you're going to get to a point where you actually play it well enough that people want to come join your team. But you've got to be in there playing and serving others before you can expect they're going to serve you. Otherwise, you end up with a big salary bill and no revenue, right? So that's the key: is partner upwards, not downwards. Partnering downwards means getting staff. Partnering upwards means actually going and working with others where you're actually part of their flow, whether it's a partnership, whether it's an affiliate, or in the case of your case, CJ, you're a flow consultant. Exactly what Sandy did as well, but she goes, hey, I'm a flow consultant, but I actually want to use this in schools, and I'm going to actually learn from others and then be part of the big flow consultant team. And you don't need to have your own team at that point, because you can partner with other people that are already in that strengths and weaknesses, right? And by the way, before I just come over to Lily, I want to add another dimension to this whole idea that you need to turn your time into team. And it's basically here a follow-on question from Steve, where Steve says here, and Steve's business, this is kind of interesting. He's got Bushfire Press, which is music tuition, music room, developmental classroom, virtual professional development all happening. So this is all, music classrooms online. And then also he's got this here, which is We're Off Asia, which is children's music programs. And as you can see, they're actually now in Chinese, and they're going to Malaysian. So into different parts of Asia as well, which relates to his question. And the question that he's got here is, I'm attending iLab next week in Bali, working through preparation. So Gemma's new to me, and this will be my first core. We're present a music and performing arts education publishing company selling to primary schools and teachers. Our challenge is moving from being booksellers, which is selling the product, to being able to leverage our combined 160 years of expertise and IP in the field to expand beyond the constraints we have imposed on ourselves. So our resources through publishing books, CDs, and so on are organized into two main programs that can be licensed and franchised. And the Singapore and Chinese governments have expressed as policy they need to be more creative in their education system. So we think we can help with this. We've got a Mandarin speaker on our team. How do we get into partnerships? So the whole question here is like, Steve's figured out, like, it's not just about me building a team. I've got to get connected into the market out there. And you can see at the moment that what they're doing is they're really looking at their products. And I've got to comment on that in a moment in terms of what's most exportable. But I'm going to start with you, Lily, because there's a reason you're in England right now, right? So what would you be saying, given that the question is, well, look, we really want to expand into Asia. What's the best way for us to get partnerships or get going? Do you want to share a bit about how you've gone about getting partnerships, like, for example, with Durham, and now obviously working with Genius U, that would actually be relevant to the way that Steve's looking at it? Lily, over to you.
Yeah, that's it. For me, it's very philosophical, Roger, to get into partnerships, because it's like you met somebody. I was approached recently, and so you met somebody and you check them out, and then eventually, I don't know. I didn't find partnerships easy the past 25 years. The Durham partnership, it just worked. So I don't know how to answer you. If I must answer, for me, it's very gut flow. It's very, very regarding your gut. Even this new partner that wants to do it, to have maybe I'm not long enough at Genius U to know all the tricks and all the answers. But for me, partnerships in the past was a gut feel thing. And even when I connect with Durham yesterday, I haven't seen him since 2010, him and his wife, and it was like picking up picking up the conversation like yesterday, and just doing great things together again. So yeah, I don't know, Sally, can you help? Maybe you've got lots more partners, but for me, it's like it's like a gut feel connection. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is not a good answer, but this.
So yeah, I'm not going to let you get away with it that easily. I'm gonna because I know you're smart and you've got answers to all this stuff, right? Like there's a reason you're in England right now, right? You're already getting connected up with others, and there's a reason that you actually said, okay, I know I need to go digital, and I know I don't want to do it myself, and I don't want to build a team to do it where I'm just trying to figure it out. I want to partner upwards, which is exactly why, when we were together recently, right? Like, you were like in Cape Town, you were like, okay, all right, like let's make this happen now. And where you're actually willing to be led by those who might know more than you around that area. So like let's talk about that. Let's talk specifically about with GeniusU and the plan to actually bring things online. Do you want to share your strategic thinking as to why you think that the whole way of online delivery, as opposed to just physically at in the classroom, is a really important direction for you to be going with or going
in? Roger, it's strange. My daughter, it started with my daughter. I've got a daughter that's 34 years old, and she's a financial director of an online gaming app. Okay, and she's selling advertising. Now, if you live in my small world in South Africa, and then suddenly your daughter's in London. So I visited her last year in November, and I was so fascinated because all the young people were sitting everywhere on laptops and working. They're not in classrooms. They're not in offices anymore. They're walking, they're sitting in coffee shops. And like my daughter also, then she's in Berlin, then she's in Copenhagen, then she's always online and always working. And I thought, this is the future. One of these days we're going to one of these planets, like Mars and whatever, and then we must all be online and learning and so on. And for me, it's just the future. There's just not, why would you keep on trying to do something in a classroom if the whole world is changing? And I don't know why London fascinates me so much. And then I thought, okay, let me go back to Durham University. That was the only one that could help me in 2008. And they are 800 or more years old. And then he told me they've got all this experience of online, and they've got so many schools on it. But even they, I think you are on the edge of online stuff. I must tell you that. So being at GeniusU, for me, I said to you, it's like coming home. It's like growing all the time, Then I think, okay, I think I've got Roger now, and then you jump out with a new thing, So yeah, being creative. No, for me, it's just a question of you must learn anywhere where you are. So even if you're in a little town in the Eastern Cape, in Mthatha, and you've got a cell phone, you can learn. You don't have to go to class, and you don't have to have a poor teacher, poor meaning not a teacher that inspires you. You can go online, do a course, and maybe find yourself a mentor or a coach assisting you if you can't manage the online learning. Yeah, I don't know. I hope I've answered you. For me, online is just the thing.
Yeah, because I think there is a really, really important kind of like a strategic decision that needs to be made. Where, of course, you can kick it off by going in with the music books and the products that you've got right now. This is the Steve, right? He can do that. But when you really look and say, hey, like with all this expertise now, ability to get creative, like not just going CDs, DVDs, USBs, which is all like old technology, right? No one's really, I mean, I don't even know anyone around me that has a CD or DVD player anymore. So how do you actually now go from that to actually fully online and even to the next step, which is coming really fast, which is AR, augmented reality, virtual reality. And you don't have to do any of this. You can just partner up with the people out there that already are doing this. That's the partnerships you're looking for, right? To say, right, how do I get partnered with the people who currently are supplying, online courses or, AR courses into Chinese schools, into Malaysian schools, because we've got the content, we can partner with them, we'll take a cut, they'll take a cut, and then that way everyone wins, right? So the question is not with how do I make money? The question is how do I help other people make money? And then you're looking for the people that are looking to make the money and saying, hey, I can help you make more. Here's how we can do it. And they're all looking for it, right? Like everyone will help you when you're going to them to say, look, with like, so for example, when we go to America and we're looking for people that might want to be our partners for events, we don't go to them saying, hey, we're looking for partners for events because we want to make money. We go to them saying, hey, we've got like this next year, like, you know, an $8 million budget that we need to spend on our events. We know we're going to be paying a partner, like, you know, 10% of that already, that's $800,000. Who do you know that actually wants that kind of money and that actually has got the expertise that can help us? Very, very different way of thinking about it, because then people go, oh, I know someone who'd want that money. And it's not about what you're trying to get, it's about what you really have to give, even though you're giving a part of the future as you go as well. Sandy, I want to come over to you because this is like about this whole concept of how do you evolve and grow. And when we talked about your model and the idea of actually like saying, hey, let's really focus on actually getting, you know, the model right in a way that can multiply. Like, so you're not just trying to take over a country, but you're saying, well, if we could get like Vegas right, and then we actually had a model that someone could actually go, oh, I could do a city and I can make X amount of money. That'll be really good. And then it's easy once you've got the multiplier to then say, hey, if you take this on, here's how much you can make, to then actually start growing partnerships. And I think this is 100% the way someone like Steve could be going as well, if you got really clear what that multiplier is. In your case, Sandy, what would you share for someone like Steve or anyone looking to build and grow through partnerships in terms of making sure you've got the right product range and the right multipliable model before you jump too quickly into the partnership side?
Yeah, I think it's really important to make sure that you have the right model that is working, that you have the good testimonials, you have the customer ambassadors, for lack of a better word, that are really talking about what it is that you've done. And with the camps, you know, we've got that in a really short amount of time because we've had such great success. And now it's a matter of really fine-tuning the details and finding leaders that want to take these camps and have them every month in every school in their city and grow them that way. So it's really about creating a system that can be duplicated in an easy way, but also can be customized to that city, or if someone wants to put a different flair on it to allow their creativity to flow as well. But I think it's really important that those partners are in alignment with your values and that you are both rooted in the same why, and that you have that almost is your quality control when you understand that you are in values alignment with those partnerships. That's really key. Otherwise, you get too far down the path and you run into hiccups that is because you're not in values alignment and rooted in your why.
I just muted. I'm just unmuting. Yeah, absolutely. And again, partnerships is all about leverage. So as long as you've got something really, really powerful to leverage. So for example, going to the Chinese market to say, right, how do we really make sure that we've got one partner that's making really good money that we can then go out and look for other partners for as well? And what does that look like? Is it a regional thing? Is it by a particular, you know, like set of schools? Like what, like, you know, is it a region? Like, so just being really, really clear what that thing is that you're going to be focusing at building first, and then being able to evolve from there. So you're not just looking for product partnerships, which is where things kind of can go pear-shaped. I'm gonna complete on one final question here, because this has been really good, just going through and getting your views on the pathways that others are taking. This one here is an education question in itself as well. This one's an interesting one, right? And I'm going to tell you why. It's because at the moment, neither Lily or Sandy are really doing a lot of online work at the moment. As you can hear, most of what they're doing on the education side is really face-to-face, even though Lily's going to go online. And even though, you know, obviously the kids go online when they're at the camps to do things like their, you know, Genius tests and so on. But we've got here, you know, Gabriel, who's in Mexico. So he's got Coach Gabriel Urib. He's our city leader in Mexico City, which is really awesome. Says, I'm creating a new promotion. This is that is allowing me to serve more people. My best thought is to create an online version of the Talento workshops. The Talento workshops where he's using talent dynamics and he's doing it for companies. I'm developing an introduction for a guide and free video and vision exercise to give them value. The upsell will be a debrief session. So it's kind of like getting on a call and having a conversation with someone, or a mastermind group if someone wants to join that. The question is, what is the best advice for bringing my first paying client on to an online program? I'm looking for people that I have on my fan page, but haven't spent money. Is there a first step to start a digital marketing campaign, right? So basically this is like talking about more Like, what's the way to get people that are actually already on your fan page to actually want to do things with you, right? So what I'm going to do on this one is actually, because I do want to answer this because I think it's really, really important as a kind of a feed into what we're going to be doing later this week. But I'm going to come over, first of all, to Sandy. And this is a question I haven't asked you before, Sandy. But from the point of view of your goals with online, how much do you see the way you're going to grow, even like your schools or the number of kids involved and so on, through some kind of online strategy separate from the way you're currently going out to the schools and to the companies personally yourself?
Yeah, you haven't asked me that. That's part of what I'm developing this year. Thanks for putting me on the spot. And Gabrielle, if you are on the call, hello. We were at iLab together a year ago, January. So super excited to reconnect with him. And my online strategy is really in connecting with global genius educators and training them. And so we have the micro degree on GeniusU right now to give them the initial certification, and we're running the in-person training to actually train global certified genius educators to run camps and be able to debrief in talent dynamics for young people. And so it's going to be a mix. We're going to have the online training module, but then we're also going to have the in-person, because the in-person is that high touch piece where we're really going to be able to get people to invest and grow a business model for them that we're handing them is we've got the camp model figured out. We've got the way for you to make money with this and show them the entire roadmap, but having them really invest in themselves to show up and experience it will give them all the tools and skills to be successful on their own. And the online piece will just be a small component of that. Totally. But as far as the digital marketing campaign that he's asking, I would have the same question. What is that first spark?
Well, you've actually answered it there, and I'm going to explain why Sandy's answer is so bang on. People will always pay online faster when they're going to make money more than when they're going to spend money. So if you look at something like LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't actually charge people for the service where they say, hey, if you want to use more stuff on LinkedIn, then pay money to use more on LinkedIn. They don't actually do that, right? What they do say is they say, hey, if you actually want to basically use this as a recruitment tool where you're going to save money because you're not going to have to go out and use recruitment consultants, pay us money for that, right? Or, hey, if you want to actually use this as a way to be able to get to our members, pay money for that. So people are much, much faster going to pay money for things where they're actually earning something or where they're saving something. Whereas the commercial problem, solving a problem is like, oh, I just want to communicate better, right? People aren't going to pay money for that. But solving a commercial problem, which is like not where you're taking money out of someone's pocket, it's where you're putting money in someone's pocket. Totally different problem, right? And that's where people should always start online, because if you haven't figured that one out, you're going to figure the customer either. So, as you heard, Sandy isn't trying to get kids to come online. She's not trying to get, what she's saying is like, hey, if we've got someone who's a genius educator, which means that they want to make money as an educator, well, they have to come do the certification online. Guess what? Then they all join and do it because they're like, well, I'm going to make money doing this, so I'm willing to pay to do that too. So Gabriel, in your case, in a situation like this, you shouldn't be trying to get your first customers online by trying to basically just take the Talento workshops, which are really, corporates that are actually wanting to have the high touch. Don't go and take away the high touch to try and now get them to pay online, because they're really paying offline. But instead say, hey, now time for me to get my trainers trained up. And my trainers can go out and do these workshops. And I'll certify the trainers online. And you'll then find those trainers are actually going to be your first clients, because they're going to be the ones that are going to pay you to get trained online, because now they're going to go make money. Really, really, really important. So any of you who are out there and you're kind of thinking, okay, how do I actually make the money online? Until you've actually sold something really well offline and it will go online, or the best thing to do always is to actually be looking for the people you can be certifying or you can be training that allows them to actually then use those tools effectively, which you can already do, because you already can do that with Mexico. So many people in Mexico would love to use our tools, but we don't speak Spanish. You do, right? So you've got that ability to take that market and go out and start basically being the person in Mexico, frankly in South America, that's teaching people how to do flow consulting, using all our tools, how to be genius educators even. You can partner with Sandy and say, hey, we could have genius educators in Spanish. So I'll partner with you and we'll do that now and get them out in South America as well. So easy to make money the moment we're not trying to figure out how to make money. It's so easy to make money when we start thinking, how can we help other people make money? right? Which is really, really important. Okay, final thing I want to share on this, because going from that, like, that element on the online, I'm going to come over to Lily and just ask you, Lily, really your ambition, your goal. Because I know at the moment we're still in a conversation about exactly how it all breaks down. But if you were to look 10 years in the future, and we're now at 2029, what would you say would be what you would love to see E Squared looking like at that point? And what would it be looking like digital versus having the campus?
Oh, I would like in 10 years' time for E Squared to be totally global in 7 continents, and that the content automatically gets translated when you're in another country. So, and that you've got full-time, people constantly developing relevant online content. Because maybe you, Sandy, maybe Roger, you and Roger will laugh at me, but the reason why I haven't gone live, all the stuff is online. I just want it to be 100% and relevant, and I'm waiting for that gut feel to say, okay, now you can release. But I'm still doing my homework and seeing what's going on in the world to actually get to this dream where anybody can tap into it. And maybe my academic mindset, if you know what I'm saying, is still holding me a bit back, because we're doing certification. And to be certified in South Africa, and even with Durham University that I met yesterday, it's such a mission. And you've got to run through so many hoops. So it's not like you can just say, okay, what can I say? How to learn an instrument. You don't have to be certified, because I can play 8 instruments. So I can write a module, how to learn an instrument. I won't do it because there's lots of people online already that teach you how to play an instrument. But yeah, my dream 10 years is to be relevant, future orientated and exciting. So yeah, this is why I want to be online. And like I said, 7 continents and translating. It will be interesting where the world will be in 10 years. Yeah, it will be very interesting.
Well, we'll definitely have instant translation by then, for sure, right? So it's going to be about how we actually are able to then communicate effectively with each other. And it's, no question, it's going to be a totally different world. I'm going to come back to giving you both a bit of time to prepare for this, because I'm going to come back to you in a moment with what's going to be your final words of advice to everyone on this call, based on your whole experience and even just hearing the kind of questions that people are having at the moment as we go into this. Let me share, first of all, just on my screen, just a few things. The first thing I wanted to share was all the interaction happening on our actual chat. So really good to see so many of you on here. Here's Catherine from wintry Margaret River. It's obviously winter now in Australia. Here's Jasper in from Denmark here. Here's Hugh in from Auckland, New Zealand. Alison from South Africa. So Darren from Cornwall, Steve from Western Australia, Fremantle. So great to see so many people on all these posts. Here's Duncan, here's Kathleen. Here's Catherine saying, super fabulous to see you, Sandy, and hear more of your story, which is pretty awesome. There's some good stuff on here as well. Michelle, great to hear from you, Sandy and Lily. And Catherine, that was when you were listening to Lily's story. She was saying, so great, Lily. Michelle saying, wow, Lily. So everyone was like seeing some really groovy stuff on here. Just comments around things like expanding thinking about sponsors, partnerships. And so other things that really worth coming in and checking out on here. Sonia on Melbourne, that's awesome. Steve, thanks for picking up the question, Roger. So that's really, really cool. In terms of what the background of what everyone's sharing. This is great. This is Duncan saying Gabriel actually generated $36,000 in offline revenues last month using Michelle's promotion plan. And sometimes that is the answer as well. When we go through this coming, starting on the 28th, which is this Friday, this coming course, one of the courses, which is on income, I make a really, really important distinction when we're going through the value cycle of the fact that at level number 1, the goal at level number 1, which is not to basically be profiling and finding people that are trying to be your customer. Meaning you're not trying to figure out who's my ideal customer that's going to pay me money. You're actually saying, who's my ideal follower who's going to share my information, who actually is a totally different person. So for someone like Gabriel, he could be saying, well, because I really care about the whole movement, I'm going to start creating a following of people that really care about the fact that they want to get into flow, and I'm going to build that up. And I'm not going to expect any of those people, like, you know, you're talking about your fan base. So like, you got a fan base, but they're not necessarily your customers. You can say, I don't want any of the people my customers. I just want them to get amazing value. But if they share that with enough people, some of those people will be my customers, right? And then I'll have a pathway that I can meet them offline, or I can have a pathway in which they can be my certified coaches. But by being really, really aware that the rainmaking, which is the first step of a cycle, you know, when you're actually making, this is not about a funnel where you start with the river. This is rainmaking where you start with the clouds. And you say, hey, I can make lots of rain, and some of it will come into my river, some will come into others. Sandy could do the same thing, where she's like, I'm going to start creating an education movement around all of England, all of America and England, wherever she wants to go. And actually, it doesn't even need to be about just the camps and what we do. Like if there's partners we have, or people that aren't even our partners, this is like what Zappos was famous for. You know, they'd solve the problem, whatever it takes, even if it meant that competitors were getting the business instead. And so it is about basically that rainmaking, which is how do you build so much trust with your audience that the right customers then show up out of that. And it's a very different way of thinking. And we'll go through all the steps, including this one. This is one I was saying to Gabriel. Like sometimes it's not even the customer that you're looking for, it's the person that becomes your partner. And this is the sky shaping, right? This is how you actually evaporate the sea back into more clouds to turn into more rain. And it's what most of the time in funnels, they don't even think about. They think the last step is when you just got a customer that's happy, as opposed to you've actually got, you know, people that are actually making money by actually working with you as well. So we're going to go through that. So do jump into it. And we've got a very, very exciting week showing up. And like I said, all this is free of charge for you. So you might as well make the most of it. Let's come over finally to Sandy and Lily. First of all, a big thank you. This has been an awesome call. And I'm always inspired by both of you for all the good work you're doing in the world. I'm going to come over and start with you, Sandy. What would be any final words you'd like to leave everyone with?
I think my final words are around clarity. And when I think about all the questions that have been asked, is to really take time for yourself. As an entrepreneur, we get pulled in so many different directions, and you know, we have our vision and we want to tackle it all and handle it all, and no one can do it better than we can. And we get stuck in that space. And when you get really clear on your why and on who you are and who you're showing up as, and really looking to amplify the brilliance in everyone around you, then that's when the flow and the attraction just happens effortlessly, regardless of what your product is or what your service is. And that's really been the biggest shift for me in the last 4 years, but really in the last year, more than anything, has been finding that clarity within myself and allowing myself that time to get still and again, grow the garden versus running around with a net trying to catch the butterflies.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you, Sandy. And for everyone that's listening, do post whatever's been your biggest learning from this call in the chat there. And I'll come over to Lily. And Lily, what would be the big thing you'd like to share with everyone? You're on mute still, so we've got to unmute you.
Can you hear me? The biggest thing is, yes, the same as Sandy, get into flow, a life of effortless ease, because it's then easier for me, my goal is to change lives for the better. So, and the calmer you are and the more focused, and then, get into flow and follow all these tips that you are giving us, the micro degrees, the events that we can attend, because if you follow it, success will follow as well, and partners will follow. That's my message.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Sandy. This has been fabulous. Thank you, especially Lily, for having found a way to get over the technology problems. You have now qualified yourself as a proper entrepreneur for the technology era, so we can work together, which is great. And also a big thank you, Sandy, for being up past 1 in the morning and not turning to something, which is awesome. Fabulous. Yeah. Thanks a lot to all of you, and thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch up with you all on our next Gem Call. See you all later. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.